What's the general population wears orange?
What are some of the real cutting-edge technology that's underway in prisons today? I imagine there's a lot of gee-whiz kind of thing.
The fact of the matter is, I'm wearing the orange jumpsuit.
What's her name? Inmate!
Well, is Governor Rockefeller going to come here? Will he consider doing that? Do you think he should come here?
He should come. His refusal to come here is a monstrosity, because what he is saying is kill these men. I have no concern. All I want to do is restore law and order.
43 people were killed, 150 were shot, and 1,289 were tortured.
State troopers and police came by and said, nigga, get out from under that pillar. We wanted you to have a cover. We would give you one. You gonna die in the morning, nigga. Black power, huh? Black power, huh?
The power structure, led by Nelson Rockefeller, wanted to show to the world, and certainly to the rebellious forces within his own country, with the advice and consent and affirmation of Richard Nixon, what the price is for rebellion.
That is an absolute act of bestiality on the part of this man who calls himself an elected official of this state.
I therefore am proposing the following program for dealing with the illegal pushers of drugs, including heroin and LSD, hashish, and other dangerous drugs.
If we can only have enough law enforcement, we'll have no problems in the cities.
Therefore, first I am recommending legislation making the penalty for all illegal trafficking in hard drugs a life sentence in prison.
It isn't a question anymore of whether escalation is right or wrong. We've had it. The thing is, should we still have it by degrees or have a limit on it, or shouldn't we do whatever is necessary to win this war?
Therefore, I will submit legislation removing persons charged with illegal traffic in hard drugs from the protection of the Youthful Offenders Law.
To win the war as quickly as possible.
The law-abiding people of this state have the right to expect tougher and more effective action from their elected leaders to protect them from lawlessness and crime.
What we need is a total offensive.
People have lost patience with the courts that dally and delay in bringing criminal elements to justice.
In Newark, Negroes were angry about the old evils, bad food, police brutality, bad housing, lack of political power.
To close all avenues for escaping the full force of this sentence, the law will forbid acceptance of a plea to a lesser charge, forbid probation, forbid parole, and forbid suspension of sentence.
In 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, or 25 years.
15 years of imprisonment.
Of rage, of blind fury at the American social and racial system that could never have been conceived.
We need total war in the United States.
Therefore, I propose the payment of a $1,000 cash reward for the person or persons providing information leading to the apprehension and conviction of each hard drug pusher.
We could still comfort ourselves in Europe that at least we understood the problem.
In our well-intentioned effort to help the unfortunate by way of kind of becoming a welfare state, we have at the same time downgraded and made old-fashioned the beliefs in self-reliance, independence. We have been willing to trade freedom for a state of civil war, slums, greater force.
Life is not getting better for Negroes, it is getting worse.
In the late 60s, when the profit rate started to flatten, sort of in general, throughout the capitalist world, capitalists who had more than not embraced the Keynesian solution or compromise as a way out of the deep crisis of the Depression, turned to the state again in the 60s and said, we want relief from the huge taxes that we pay, right? They were paying insurance premiums to keep another Great Depression from happening. And it was those insurance premiums that underwrote the welfare state. You can see it here in California. 1967 or 68, Reagan signs into law, then Governor Reagan signs into law a deep reduction in taxes for California banks and corporations. So what happens? That burden gets shifted to who? Wage earners, who are in many cases also homeowners. The homeowners' revolt of 1978 was a response to capital pushing tax burdens, right, the burden of supporting the state onto them.
And when government tries to solve all of these problems with some decree and some theory, it just doesn't work.
And it was right in that period of time in the late 70s when this sort of everyday delegitimization of the state sort of takes hold and becomes a platform from which people can run for and achieve elected office. And what gets blamed for everything that's wrong from then on out is the state.
And private enterprise and private enterprise.
And people, want to become president and want to become governor and want to become mayor to run the state. They say what they're doing is they're running against the state. But of course, they're not working so hard to get that power to take apart the foundation of power that they're trying to achieve, right? They might want to take apart some things, but nobody, you can't tell me one place anywhere in all of these United States where somebody ran for office, got the office, abolished the state, and went home. They don't do that.
Fundamentally, this problem is going to require private effort and private initiative.
We need to enlist individual and private enterprise, mobilize
Free enterprise system to solve all of these problems.
What they did do here in California and throughout the United States was run against the state, get state power and say, well, okay, in all these other areas, education, welfare, and so forth, the state is not legitimate, and we should let households and markets take care of that. But you do need the state for defense. You need it for international defense, and you need it for defense in the local sphere. So what the state should do is be the police force that keeps the streets calm and safe. And then the state should be the force that puts wrongdoers in prison. So the state should build prisons. So at the very moment that people who ran against the state seized state power, the first thing they started to do was build prisons.
We were founded as a firm that focused primarily on medical work, hospital design, psychiatric facility design, medical office buildings, any aspect of the healthcare environment. KMD has done that kind of work, and historically that has represented 50% or more of our workload over the entire lifespan of this firm. We had provided professional services in the justice architecture arena. Probably we've done for more than 20 years, about 23 or 24 years. We haven't focused on that market up until about the last 12 years. When healthcare started dropping off, a lot of public funds and the whole law and order issue started evolving. A lot of public funds started being directed towards justice work. And our chief executive officer decided it was an arena we had to participate in more actively. So we really started focusing on that marketplace in the late 80s and the early 90s, and have done so ever since. And it's grown substantially as a source of our work to the point where now we, as a group, probably do 50% of the work in the office or more. We have over $1 billion worth of justice work right now in planning, design, or construction, so it's a lot of work.
The United States has a huge expropriated population. That is, people without access to common lands, people without access to formerly public goods. These public goods, a right to education, a right to health care, a right to public lands, a right to water, a right to air, are being taken away. And so those who are expropriated, the children, young people, vacationers, holiday makers, people in search of knowledge, many, a significant number, are criminalized. That is, are imprisoned in many forms of an American archipelago of incarceration.
We do big teaching hospitals and medical centers that are $100 to $150 million worth of work, plus or minus. I mean, you're talking about 10 or 11 of those projects to equal what we're doing in justice work.
The law locks up the man or woman who steals the goose from off the common, but lets the greater villain loose who steals the common from the goose. Do you see? It links privatization to criminalization, and it diverts our attention from the real criminal, which, according to Anonymous, in this poem that's 500 years old as capitalism itself, the real criminal are those who make the law to benefit the privatizers. And the privatizers are a minority, a small minority who have stolen our commons.
One woman off welfare put it this way: it's good to be working, but you're steady crawling.
It is essential for us to see that enslavement and imprisonment or criminalization belong together as part of the same economic process. Of once people have been expropriated from their means of living and violently placed in the transportation ships, these holes were filled with so-called criminalized young people who were bound for the plantations of the Caribbean, Central America, South America, and North America. And their job was to level the forests, to drain the swamps, so that a plantation and arable agriculture could be installed.
I've got to tell you a story that I think really makes very clear what's happening. And this is a story that happened in Corcoran, in Central California. Corcoran is a little town mostly dominated by the cotton industry, and it has two prisons. One opened in, I forget, 87, 88, and the more recent one in 98. The town has maybe 8,800 people in the free world and about 12,000 in prison. So this town, which is 65% Mexicano, Chicano, has had extremely high high school dropout rates. And they have a school council and also a city council who want to do something on behalf of the kids who are getting squeezed out of the system. And they came up with a plan that was fairly complex, but they could do because it's a small town, small high school, in which they would treat each kid, imagine this, individually, try to figure out why he or she was dropping out, and make it possible for that student to finish their core course requirements and do the other things they had to do. Then the school board went to the city council and said, give us some money so we can hire somebody to run this program. The city council said, we don't have any money. The then city manager said, I have an idea. It's true we can't get any money to hire another school teacher, but we can get outside funds to hire another police officer. We can get federal funds and state funds to hire a police officer. So what they did was they hired a police officer to be the guidance counselor in the high school to coordinate this program. But of course, nominally they hired him, and actually formally they hired him to be the drug counselor in the high school. And the city manager, is a totally decent Anglo guy from the Midwest, I mean, you know, a good person, said, when these kids run into trouble with uniformed officers, they'll have a better chance of a positive outcome because they will have learned to speak with a plainclothes officer at school. They're trying so hard to be good, and you see what good has become.
Los Angeles High School, 4,500 kids total, 3,500 kids on track at a time, 2 tracks on, 1 track off. About 85% Latino, 85% Latino, 8 to 10% African American, 7 to 8% Asian, mostly Korean, and then the rest are sort of a mishmash of others. School, as evidenced, was designed by a prison architect to reflect the changing population that began to attend the school in the mid-70s. And I teach currently social studies to 11th and 12th graders, 16 to 18-year-olds, U.S. history and U.S. economics and government. So we talk a lot about this school and why it looks the way it does and how that reflects people's attitudes towards the students who go here.
Well, certainly one place where you've seen an explosion of the police state is inside our schools. If you look at all of the facts that are just undisputed, the safest place for a kid to be is in school. It's a total myth, this explosion of schoolyard crime. The other thing that you see in response to this myth is the actual placing of police officers, sheriffs on school property as permanent fixtures.
We have 2 cops that regularly patrol around these areas. They come in, they're partners. But what we have is internal security, right? Which, like you saw that cart, that little golf cart, this guy who's staring at us somewhat hostilely right there, and that woman, those are both also securities. The guy in the black shirt is security. We have, you know, except for that woman and another woman, they're all men.
I have a friend who works in a school in Richmond, California, where, you know, the sheriff, it's a grammar school, and the sheriff is on duty there all the time. And they have a Scared Straight program where they handcuff students who are accused of such crimes as goosing, you know, their fellow classmates or something to that effect. These 7-year-olds goosed a little girl. They took the 2 7-year-olds in, handcuffed them, put them in the office, threatened to arrest them, called their parents. You know, this is like, when we were kids, you know, that would have been maybe a trip to the office, maybe not.
They knock on the door, then they come in. They just take all your kids out. They separate them by gender, and then they just search them all. They search their bags, they search their pants, they search their shoes, and then they let you back into class half-hour later.
I think we have a little of that on tape as Jennifer comes face to face with the reality of prison life.
What is your name? I can't hear you. Inmate! Don't you ever forget, playtime is over! This is the real thing!
Is this what you want for yourself, miss? No. This is the real thing, miss. And unless you change now, this is where you'll be.
In these neighborhoods, there used to be, you know, good jobs that were entryways to the middle class, blue-collar union jobs. Those are all gone. There hasn't been a factory in these neighborhoods in 25 years.
When I was in public school in the 1950s, all of our schools looked like factories. And we learned in school to behave in ways that would make us appropriate subjects of factory labor. Schools look like factories. We came with the bell, we moved with the bell, we left with the bell. All that disciplining was very straightforward. And today, schools, they look more and more like prison. And there seems to be a statement, again, in the urban landscape, especially sort of in the urban landscape where poorer people are concentrated, that suggests that there is no factory for these kids to become acculturated to, but there is some kind of structure at the end of the line where they will spend part or all of their lives. And that will be something much more carceral than a factory, perhaps a prison. But the similarities in architecture are incredible. There seemed to be no future behind that wall. It was poured concrete, the windows were very high in the wall so you couldn't see out, just a little bit of light would come in. Within the high school, the layout was sort of confusing so that you couldn't easily find your way in and out. They weren't the sort of grid halls that we were used to in the old public school buildings. And if you've gone into a prison, any of the new prisons in California, you see that that same kind of confusing layout is apparent. You go in and you're led around and you're driven around and you can't for the life of you get a bead on what direction is what unless you can see the sun and figure out, you know, where you came in and how you can get out, and that's the point.
One of the most shocking things about coming to a city like Los Angeles, huge concentrations of wealth, most well-endowed museums in the world, you know, these enormous malls. Then you go to a high school. And the high school is basically a minimum security prison with not only full-time school police, but LAPD, including undercover, you know, gated and wired metal detectors for guns. I mean, the whole atmosphere is that of a generation being incarcerated.
Kids who go to our school have very limited options. Low income, low wage service jobs, unemployment, the military, or prison.
All you have to do is hit the switch.
It is a profession, and there's over 800,000 Americans that are working directly in institutions, probation, parole, juvenile facilities, and support functions in our country to watch the 6.3 million Americans who are under some kind of court action or supervised watching.
This paper, at one time, we had put a little marijuana and a little cocaine. The instrument will detect 1/1000,000 of a gram on narcotics. It's a 15-second analysis time. It's saying particle analysis. We didn't get an alarm from you. I don't know why. Let me do your hands. Put your hand for me. Okay, we're not detecting from you. I don't know what you did to me. Handle this a little bit. That's it, Robert. Okay. All morning we were getting detections left and right. In 1992, DEA published a report, and they said that 96% of our paper currency is contaminated. Take a bill out at random. Okay, put it over there. So this passed, I can use it again. This instrument is the only instrument in the world that's been challenged, approved, and accepted in the United States courts.
So what do I can hook to?
We build and operate and manage prisons.
How big are you?
We're on the New York Stock Exchange.
The private prison construction, operation, management sector has about somewhere between 5 and 7% of the market currently. And there's always some fluctuation because they're always messing up, because in order to make the profits that they make, they have to, they bill the states or the municipalities where they have the contracts at the same rate that that state or municipality would pay to imprison somebody under their own aegis. So let's say it's $59 a day, which is what it is in California. So where does the profit come from? It comes from reducing wages to the lowest possible level, as well as reducing the cost of food and other variables.
In 1980, not only were there no privately operated correctional facilities in this country of the type I'm talking about, jails and prisons, there was not a single state in the United States which recognized it as a legal possibility. Today, better than 2/3 of the states in the United States, as well as the federal government, recognize it as a perfectly legitimate and lawful public policy choice.
Financial institutions now realize there's such a premium on beds that people will build a facility and say, I know they're out there, all I got to do is build it, and they will come. And it is true. You know, and they don't know whether it will come from the INS or the Marshal Service or the state prison system, but build me 1,000 beds and somebody will send me inmates.
What's been happening in terms of surveillance and police technology for more than a generation has been a series of epical advances in being able to process what was previously huge amounts of random information. Almost every major threshold in new surveillance or police technology has involved this ability to take what is formerly just a sea or a fog of information and make it meaningful, like the ability to scan the almost infinite content of telephone conversation. Just continually scan it, looking for keywords and so on, and build recognizable patterns. Turn that into information, and it's the same thing with being able to identify individuals through their retinal shapes or their facial geometry and so on. Suddenly, crowds cease to be anonymous. You can decompose the crowd into the individuals. It's not only scary because of what it means is an enhanced power by the state, but it's equally available to private corporations, or for that matter, in certain parts of the world, to private armies and police forces.
Well, the National Guards provides support to law enforcement agencies across the country in every state and territory in a variety of different forms. And on the law enforcement training side, they range from gangs identification to new drugs that are out on the market and information about those drugs, to emerging technologies and surveillance equipment and all this, all different kinds of stuff. All those broadcasts are done in conjunction with federal partners like the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center in Glencoe, Georgia, the DEA, U.S. Customs, Department of Justice, all those different agencies. We also provide mapping free of charge to law enforcement agencies. We'll provide customized maps to law enforcement officers. If they're looking at certain routes of transit of drugs in the area, anything like that. If they're looking to do surveillance on an area and they want to know where to post their officer, the only criteria that we have is it has to have something to do with drugs. And we can usually stretch that to fit, just about anything. We try our best to support anybody. We don't like to say no to anybody. So if we can find some sort of indirect drug link, then we'll harp on that and we'll use that.
How does corrections in the United States differ from corrections in other places, where most significantly Canada and Europe?
Well, we lock up a lot more people.
Collect calls are usually more. For 10 minutes, it could cost you up to $40. 35 cents a minute, and then there's a connection fee.
I have to say, I've only talked to a few people in my business about this issue. I mean, this is a private issue. The people that work with me are people who do nothing but justice work. That's all we do. So they don't get a relief and do a hospital in law or do a movie theater. And this is just a temporary stay here. This is what they are doing as a commitment, a professional commitment with their lives. If you look at something like Prop 21 in the state of California, which will probably mean more work for us, then I, as a business person with a responsibility to this group of people, I look at that as a great opportunity as a business person, because we should hopefully access some of that work. That's our future. If you sit there and say, is Prop 21 the way this country should be going in terms of purporting to attempt to solve the problems that create a boom in the justice industry, and are you an endorser of that as a person, that's a whole other issue. And that's the issue we deal with when we go home and have dinner or over the weekend. And it is a problem. I know it is a problem for me. I suspect it is a problem for a number of folks here, that they ask themselves that question.
No one is safe from this constant surveillance. It's making our communities police states. Well, while it's true that the United States Constitution gives you certain rights, those rights have consistently been torn down over the years by the courts. You have police constantly stopping kids or suspected gang members and adults on the streets. You have them asking, requesting of youth and adults to show your tattoos. Let me take a picture of you. People are afraid to say no to the police. And so most people will consent to something like that. They'll take your picture, take your name, put you in their gang database. If you are later arrested and charged with some offense, they'll often try to allege that it was as part of this gang. And that gets you incredible numbers of years enhanced on the sentence, meaning in addition to the sentence you would receive for the underlying offense. So for example, under Proposition 21 in California, you have provisions for creation of a new crime called basically conspiracy to commit a gang offense.
What number you have? 23.
Okay, we're on the east side of the track.
Augusta and White, I'm going to attempt to contact one. Can you start over here?
Copy, Augusta and White. Hey, Mary 13. Hey, Mary 13, go. On your subject, Nick, I have a Fresno County probation information on Nick. You'll be at 10, 17, 84, 54, 102. Again, no ID. Mary 11 and Mary 15, I'm Augusta and White, right across the street. I'm going on an area of Augusta and Lewis, could I have a unit responding? You on probation? Not yet.
Okay, stand up. What are you, Sureño, right?
You want to have a picture too?
Yeah, I got it. You're right there. Get down. I didn't tell you to get up. Right there. See one of your tails. Pick it up. You have anything on your back? Nothing at all? Take it up. Pick up your shirt. Turn on.
This is what we're looking for, and this is what we're having a problem with today, is Sureño gang members out here. But like I said, these are all indicative of a gang member.
Imagine what it is like for someone to be singled out unfairly, unjustly, and feel the unfair force of law simply because of race.
They don't call you nothing. Who's Booze? Braz. You have no other name? Is that one? Okay. The reason why I stopped you is you're a gang member, okay? You're an admitted gang member. See that right there, 41337? That's the case number, okay? Because you're a gang member, I'm gonna take your hat. That's how you can get it back. You call the magic department, that's me, Officer Cancio. You call that phone number there, you can get in 1 year. If we don't have any contact with you in 1 year, we'll give you your hat back. Until then, you're considered a gang member. If you commit any crimes, you get gang enhancements placed on you. Understand that?
I've been here about a year and a half.
You wait for my brother? You just gonna wait for your brother? Wait over here, don't go on campus.
Yeah, I can't imagine what it'd be like to be singled out because of race and stopped and harassed. That's just flat wrong. And that's not what America's all about.
His brother? Where's he at? Yeah.
Senior, junior.
Junior. He's locked up? When did he get locked up?
I don't know. Is your mom or dad here?
Nope.
Are you open for
You're Matt, right? You were on probation, right? Yeah, I guess so. One time were you?
Yes,
No?
so. I don't know if I was on probation, but I did rock and car and accident.
You were on probation.
Just because you wear all blue doesn't mean you're a gang member. But it's a combination of things. The way he could wear his clothing, the type of clothing he is wearing. As you investigate gangs more, you develop expertise on it, so you can figure out, who's who and what they're doing. Like I said, the reason why I take this is I book it in a property, and it's it's called PC 18622 of the Penal Code, which makes being in a street gang illegal, like him. That way, should this kid get arrested for some major crime later on, like maybe shooting a gun at another gang member, they'll pull my report and my card and this evidence here showing that yes, this kid was a gang member, and they'll add extra 2, 3, or 5 years extra on his sentence.
Dad,
Who lives here? Dad lives here?
just my dad, my little sister, and my brother.
What happened? You guys fire the maid or what?
No, we just don't like cleaning.
We clean up on it.
Nope.
We thought you were.
What's your dad do? He's a.
Oh, that was an accident, huh?
Yeah, I was at school. What school do you go to?
Oh, well, if it was at school, it had to be an accident.
How old are you? 13.
So you're in junior high?
Yeah, I got an ID.
You going to Clovis West?
I got Alton.
Yeah,
You mean
but
for
when
high
you-
school?
yeah.
High school, I'm going to Buchanan.
You're going to go to Buchanan?
Yeah, it's just like right by Alton, so yeah.
I know.
That's if you don't move.
I know all about this neighborhood.
Oh, okay.
That's why I'm a little concerned about if you guys are gang banging in this neighborhood. It's ridiculous. This ain't the ghetto. You can't claim you do it because everybody else around you does it.
One of the most harrowing figures I just saw is that thanks to the rollback of affirmative action, the percentage of Latino students at Berkeley, for instance, or I think also at UCLA, is approximately what it was 20 years ago. I don't even know why Latino workers pay taxes to the state of California. Their kids get nothing out of it. In a city in which Latinos are half the population, they're about 6% on the enrollment, at the University of California. All the projections show, for instance, in California, another 10 or 15 years, baby boomers like me, white middle-aged guys like me, will now be elderly white guys. We will have huge entitlements from the public sector in terms of retirement, Social Security. And that will have to be provided by a labor force that will be overwhelmingly young Latinos.
It's a lot of people. It's packed. You gotta make a line to go to
Everybody
the
runs to the bathroom.
bathroom. You gotta make a line to write your name. You gotta make a line for everything, and then it takes there like 2 hours, and then they call you number, and then you go inside and you get to see them.
And they check everything. You can't take the carriage. You only could take his food. We're taking his food and clothing.
the diapers.
The diapers and 2 bottled milk. That's it. That's all you're allowed inside.
It's a stress food.
Yeah, they search you?
Yeah.
Yes,
You just go to the metal detectors, and you could always take in money.
You take
That's
money
it.
and I go in with money.
No
because
lipstick,
we send
no-
out for food. And we
lipstick
make an
on.
order. And then about an hour and a half later, they come back with the food. Whatever we ordered for the 3 of us to eat. Because we're there a lot of hours.
Hell yeah. I don't have a phone. He's not able to call me because the bill is so high that I gotta block on my phone. Hello.
Average is like 400 a month.
Yeah, like
Yes,
500.
right,
Yeah.
400 to 500 a month.
Both of them were 550. 550.
So today I left my house at about 8:30, 8:45. And I got
got into Manhattan at like 9:35. You know, I board the bus. We pull out a little after 10. We get there sometime within the middle of the night, like around 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning. We'll be in Wyoming. And our day pretty much starts at 8 o'clock when they allow us to go in and, start the registration procedures. So we have to sign the person we're here to see name in. And we get dressed. It's like an all-day process. Once the visit is over at 3:30, the bus is waiting for us. You know, we just head back home.
What time do you get back to New York?
Well, I would assume that we probably get to New York around 10:30, because that's what time we get back anytime. Because if it's ending the same time, so about 10:30. And by the time I get home, it'll be close to midnight. But that's because of the subways.
It's the whole thing. How many hours is the whole thing?
A little over 24. A little over 24 hours. There's a lot of people that's locked up from where I am, but you see them and you don't see them. But I don't really deal too much with the people in my area, so when I don't see them, it's just like I wasn't looking for them. I have a life, I have children, and I have a job, so I don't pretty much get into that. But there are a lot of people in there, because now my fiance goes, "Oh, I seen so-and-so here, or so-and-so is here," and you see the other people that you know from your area waiting for buses like this one or another one that's going someplace else. So yeah, I would assume that there are a lot of people in the system. If you bring a package, that costs money, of course. Everything has to be new. The sneakers have to still be in a box. Your ticket is $50. Then when you go to eat, it's breakfast and lunch for you, because you've been on the bus all night. So you have to get yourself something to eat. Then you have to pay for them to eat, and that costs money. So I would say on an average visit, I would spend about $20 in quarters. So I have $20 in quarters. But I also take pictures out of that. And then, we get food coming back. I say once a week I spend about $100.
Takes me about I usually take I always come out early in order to catch the bus early. It takes me about 45 minutes to come down here. Then catch the bus and wait for the bus about sometime an hour or two. Sometimes the bus come late. And then come up here. So I usually away from my house since Saturday about 7:30 to Sunday about 9 or 10 o'clock at night.
And you've been coming up for how long?
For 7 years.
How often?
Every week.
Financially, it's a burden, time consuming somewhat, but in the end, it's worth it. It's really worth it.